Insane in the Membrane.
Hello and welcome to Insane in the Membrane with me, Rich Wilson. And this week I'm joined by the brilliant Sam Goode. How you doing, Sam?
I'm very good, Rich. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Well, do you know what? No, I'm not good. My brain is everywhere at the minute. There's too many things going on and I'm fucking things up left, right and centre. Like I was supposed to come in and see you guys last week and I had it in the diary for tonight. And I'm like,
Yes,
I was gutted, mate. I was so gutted. So it's little things like that I need to like gather myself up and go, right, let's reassess. Do you know what I mean? Do you ever have times like that where it just piles up and things kind of fall to the wayside and it's just little things and it just makes you look like such a twat.
All that traffic, but yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
There's always another time, I'm sure.
We'll sort it out, mate. We'll sort it out.
Yeah,
How you been anyway, Sam? You good?
Yeah, I'm all good. Thank you for having me.
That's my pleasure, man. It's my pleasure. So tell us, Sam. Tell us about you, mate. How did you get involved in this project? What was the thinking behind it?
Well, how I personally got involved was my partner was basically just looking to play chess as a hobby, and she'd done a bit of research online and saw that a social enterprise called Five-a-Side Chess was doing pop-in sessions at the Edge Cafe on Mill Road in Cambridge. So she went along just to play chess, met some people, met Ross and Diane, who are Ross is the founder of Five-a-Side Chess. Got to know them, went for a few weeks, really enjoyed it. And then after trying to convince me to come for a couple of weeks, I came along myself and yeah, really enjoyed it too. Met Ross and Diane. I think we just got along really well. And then April sort of started just going every Saturday. I mean, not really volunteering, just out of pure enjoyment. And then just got working together and just had similar visions about society and, you know, the way in which we feel we need to go. And yeah, so now we're here.
Yeah. I think it's a fantastic idea, and it's one of those these things, like meeting points like this are so crucial for people. I think this has been talked about before, but with the pandemic, I think one of the things that really hit everybody was the fact that we were all separated from each other, and we're very, human beings, very sociable creatures, and I think we struggle when we're all kept away from each other. I think we found that the hardest part.
Yeah, absolutely. I think social isolation is it's not a natural thing for us as humans. And yeah, I think the antidote to depression is connection. And so that's sort of the angle in which we're trying to come from at Five-a-Side Chess to prevent. I think that's a really important word and important place to emphasize is the prevention as opposed to the cure, because prevention's a lot cheaper but a lot easier as well. So the only thing is with prevention is there's not a heroic storyline, and you can't always see it. It's not quantifiable as such. So but that is the play. I mean, you need people all across the line, of course, but I think prevention is really key, and that's where we're trying to emphasize.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I say that we've experienced that sometimes when you're in the middle of it, when you're feeling really depressed and you don't want to go out, you don't want to do anything. And the amount of times that I've had to say out loud, to myself, go out, go and meet someone, go and have a cup of coffee. And as soon as I've done it, I feel so much better having done that. And then I come back, I'm energized. I'm like, yeah, I feel I can get on with some stuff now.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why it's so important.
Yeah, it's almost like recharging yourself. I think when you're on your own for a week, I don't think it's good for your brain. I think you're meant to be around people and sharing experiences and knowledge and opinions, and I think a diverse life is the best.
Sorry, you broke up a bit there. Was that diverse?
Diverse life is the best life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the power of yes is what's got me where I am, because I was just because I've said this loads of times, but I'm fundamentally quite a shy
Mm,
person. So for me to be doing firstly stand-up comedy is
mm,
mental. But I've always been open to things. I'm always like, yeah, all right, I'll go and do that. And now I have, and being more open to meeting up with people rather than just, not rather than that thing about making plans but cancelling them, and like not wanting to go and meet people. I actually make myself go and meet people, or I actually
mm,
message people and go, let's go and have a coffee. And it,
yeah,
it just it just changes everything. Like you say,
yeah,
you're energized off of it.
yeah, absolutely. And it's just your comfort zone. I think you see it across the board. The other side of your comfort zone is where the gold is, really, whether that be in sport, socially, pushing yourself through situations where at first it's difficult, but on
Mm,
the other side you feel better. Like going to the gym, for example, it's very rare that you actually feel pumped up to go to the gym beforehand.
yeah, definitely.
However, by putting yourself through that little bit of discomfort, on the other side, you feel so much better. And I think you see that all across life, really, that dynamic.
Definitely, absolutely. And it's that pushing yourself. It's that making yourself go and do that thing. And it's
Yeah,
hard. It's like, yeah,
yeah,
when I
it
go to the
is.
gym, I don't bounce out of bed and go, yeah, gym.
No, it's rare.
Yeah, you just can't. And it's like you say, like going to like something like, like five-a-side chess and things like that, and
Mm,
getting, just because if it's raining, or if you've had a shit day and you just go, oh, I just can't be asked. But like you
mm,
say, going through that little bit of, and there's social anxiety as well, as you said,
mm.
and like especially going to somewhere new, that's always anxiety inducing. But once you start going and getting used to it, pretty soon you'll be a couple of months down the line and you'll feel like you're in your own house.
Yeah, and by saying yes to things, it's expanding your experience of life. You just see
Yeah,
new things, you meet new people, you get new information, and you just develop yourself by saying yes. It really is as simple as that. If you
yeah,
say no to everything, you are putting a massive limitation on your whole life experience and stunting your own growth in a way. And I know that that barrier is there, that doubt, that fear is there. But if that means you're growing, if there's fear in front of what you're about to do, it's probably because it's new and
yeah,
because it's hard, and there's value in things that are hard. So yeah,
absolutely. That sense of achievement once you've been is second to none. It's a real,
definitely.
and it's just little things like going to meet your mate,
Yeah.
go to the gym. People, for example, people are scared to go to the gym because they
Mm,
think everyone's watching them. They think everyone's
yeah.
worried about looking at that. Oh, you're not doing enough. It's like, but to be honest, no one's looking at you. No one gives a shit.
No,
They're too
no,
busy worrying about their own stuff.
no, no. I
You
heard
know.
a wise man once told me when you're in your teenage years and in your 20s, you care a lot about what people think about you. And then when you're in your 30s and 40s, a little bit less, but you still care.
Yeah.
And then when you're in your 50s and 60s, you don't really care that much, but maybe a little bit. But then
Yeah.
when you get beyond that, you realize that nobody ever did.
Yeah.
Everyone's sort of in their own bubble. Nobody really cares about the way that you look. So you might as well go out and do the things that you want to do and do the things that are going to help you grow and make you feel more fulfilled.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's that oh, excuse me. It's like people like you say, but no one cares what you look like. This is why people need to. Hello, you all good? Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute. Paul, what's that? What's?
There's a little bit of a lag there. I think Sam's internet's just
Oh, that's.
connecting.
I just want. All right.
Yeah.
You're good. I was worried. I could hear this. I could hear something else. It sounded like a dog barking.
No, it's you coming back like a couple of seconds later.
Ah, I see. All right. Cool. I think like I have this conversation a lot on Instagram with
Mm,
people because I'm always talking about what you look like, and I'm like, like if you want to wear bright colours, wear bright colours. No one's looking at you. No one cares. They might get the odd comment like from a mate,
mm,
like, what the fuck are they? But fuck them. Just like you
mm.
say, do what you
We're,
want to do, as long as it doesn't affect anyone else.
yeah,
You
we're on a
know,
floating rock in space, Rich. Nothing really matters. And I think
nothing really matters.
some things
Yeah,
do, but I think we make a lot of things matter more than they really do in reality.
Oh God, yeah. There's, a lot of it's based on assumption as well. We're
Yeah,
always assuming someone's thinking something or some whatever,
yeah,
and when you
yeah,
actually have that conversation with someone, they go,
yeah.
"No, I wasn't thinking that at all.
But
I'm off."
even mathematically in the gym, how is it possible for everybody to be looking at one person? It's not even possible.
No,
So
of course not.
yeah,
Of course not. And you do. I mean, I did it when I first started to go, but now I'm like, I just get on with what I do. I've got my little circuit that I do. You know, I pull
yeah,
bits, I push bits. No one's looking at
yeah,
what I'm doing. They're all too busy
yeah,
posing or doing whatever they're doing. No one gives a fuck.
yeah, and
You
thinking
know?
you're looking at them. So
Yeah. They're probably looking at that old prick. He's still got it going on. What's he doing in here?
yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, so are you a keen chess player?
So my dad taught me when I was younger,
Yeah.
but it seems to be a bit of a common story. I didn't then play for years beyond that. But yeah, so sort of last 6 months I've yeah picked it back up. I mean, I could only play on a very basic level when I was a kid, but yeah, playing it now and yeah, enjoy
Yeah.
it.
I've only played it a couple of times.
Mm,
Because again, it always scared me because it always seemed to be something that intellectuals did.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like sitting around with a roaring
100%.
fire and a brandy and they
Yeah.
play hours on end.
Yeah, well,
And
this is the precise reason behind five-a-side chess. So
mm,
obviously, five-a-side chess is a cut-down version of the ancient game. So it's a 5x6 board. So the board's basically been chopped in half. And
oh, okay.
the reason for that is we believe that chess can provide so much. However, like you just mentioned, there are a lot of mental barriers
Mm,
around chess. People think that it's too confusing. They think that they're
yeah,
not smart enough to learn. They think it's for a certain demographic. So because we feel chess can provide so much, we want to make it as accessible as possible to everyone. So cutting it down to five-a-side chess, anybody can learn within 20 minutes.
brilliant. I mean, that is it. When you because everyone they do the same. They say this, they have the same conversation. They're like, oh well, I don't know which way the pieces move. But that one does that. That one does that. Oh,
Mm,
it's so difficult. But it's like older people when they turn around and say, oh, I'm such a technophobe. I'm worried.
mm.
And you're like, no, yeah, it's fear. But again, it
Just
goes back
lose.
to what you said before. If you overcome that fear, you'll feel so
Mm,
much better. It's just an air fryer. Read the
yeah,
instructions.
yeah.
You'll figure it out.
How long did it take you to learn how to walk?
Exactly. Yeah, and you did that all right. How
Quite a
long did
while,
it?
yeah.
Yeah,
You're a pro at it now, so
tying your shoes.
yeah.
Doing all the things that you do. There was a time when you were scared, you were terrified of doing it. Riding a bike,
Mm,
I still remember learning to ride a bike,
yeah,
and that was when I was 5, and that was
yeah.
terrifying.
That first time about stabilizers,
Yeah, yeah, horrifying. Yeah, and so that's the
learning
same.
way forwards.
But it's not. It was only since recently when I was reading The Grass Arena,
Mm,
and it was in that when John was talking about his journey, he'd got into chess.
mm,
And that's when it suddenly clicked for me. It was like, oh yeah, it's not about, like you said, a certain demographic. Anyone can
mm,
play chess.
yeah,
It's just
yeah,
built up in your head as this kind of like it's
yeah,
for posh people,
yeah, yeah.
you know.
I mean, chess. Yeah, when chess gets to a certain level, there's a lot of ego and there's a lot of arrogance. But we're not about the winning of the game. We use chess. We use chess as a tool
Mm,
because ultimately the an obsession of winning in general is not really healthy. I mean, war is based off winning, so
yeah,
we're not interested in that. We're interested in using chess as a tool to connect people, prevent social isolation, but also to show people that they can, but people must see it for themselves.
yeah.
See it for themselves, So chess is supposedly the second most difficult game in the world.
Oh really?
Um, yeah, so when they learn how to play five-side chess within 20 minutes, I've seen this many times. People put those two things together and they realize that they can in general. And
Yeah,
we work in prisons, and the narrative in a lot of the guys' minds in there is that they can't. But chess shows you that they can, but people must see it for themselves. You can't
mm,
go in and tell somebody that they can. You can't beg them to realize that they can. People
yeah,
must see it themselves. So the chessboard is ultimately a mirror in order for people to realize that. And you know, this is a bit of a mental health project, and I think obviously there's a lot of talk about mental health over the last 20 years. You know, I'm sure for yourself, you know, 20 years ago, you wouldn't have been familiar to it at all. It's something that's really, you know, picked up. And I think like a bad mental health comes down to two things mainly. I mean, there's obviously more, but I'd say these two spaces cover most of it. I'd say it's disconnection, and it's a lack of belief in one's ability. So obviously with five-a-side chess, we're trying to counteract both of those. So obviously from a connection standpoint, chess is a universal language. So if I was French and you were Italian, we wouldn't be able to connect usually, but chess is a universal language. We would be able to connect over a game. And from a lack of belief, like I previously mentioned, second most difficult game in the world. And if you can learn that in 20 minutes, then what else can you do? You know, it shows you that you are smart. It's just your own fear and limitations that keeps people in a box.
Yeah, that's exactly true. It's exactly true. And it's like you said, it's only been in the last 20 years. And we didn't have these conversations when I was growing up. But and I've said this before, we might not be the generation that benefits from this, but the next generation will. You know,
we're figuring it out.
Yeah.
We're figuring it out. You know, it's like it's a new thing. We're not experts on how to deal with this. So we are, like you say, maybe we aren't the first generation to fully be able to execute, counteracting this properly. But maybe we can be a stepping stone in order to get to that place. And you know, on the one hand, it seems like our mental health's got worse. But somebody actually said to me the other day, and it made me think about it differently, and I found it really interesting. Is like, well, actually, maybe it's getting better. Maybe we're just more intelligent about it now. Maybe we're just realizing more things now. You know, like an 11-year-old kid was talking about his triggers for his emotions. You know, like that's an 11-year-old talking and identifying his own personal triggers that makes him act in a certain way. So if you think about how much hurt and trauma was evident after the war, there must have been loads. And so the fact that we're actually realizing these things now, we're becoming more intelligent about it. Actually, maybe we are going on the right path, although because of the amount you see it feels like it's getting worse, but maybe it's not.
I think that's right. It's exactly that. It's because we're investigating now and not just shoving it under the carpet. That's why, suddenly everyone's... again, someone said to me, everyone's mentally ill now. Everyone's got... And you go, yeah, we've opened the box. And so now it's all flying out. And so at the minute, we're in this massive kind of washing machine of figuring out all these different emotions all over the place. But it will settle down eventually when we all get a handle on it. But I think admitting that you're struggling is a strength in itself, because it's easy to just go, no, I'm fine. No, don't worry about it. I'm fine. To the point, I'm very open about, like today when I said to you, I'm like, listen, you know, you're right. I went, do you know what? I am, but no, I'm not actually, because of this, and this. And it's just an explanation as to why I'm a bit all over the place at the minute. That's it. You know what I mean? But I feel I'd rather you knew that than me just going, no, I'm fine. And you're like, but you seem unorganised.
And you think how like automated we are with one another. Like when we meet someone, we just say in England, "Hi, you all right, mate? Yeah, fine." Or "Yeah, I'm all right, you?" And it's just like you don't even think about it. But for a lot of people, you know, they aren't, and it's like people see it as a sign of weakness, and I think it comes down to a fear and a lack of trust. Maybe they feel like they might be exposed for that, and you know, especially amongst guys, you know, it's commonly felt that it's a sign of weakness if you're saying, do you know what, I'm not doing great, or I've had a bad day, or I've had a bad week, and you know, that's completely normal. Like, life is a cycle of emotion, worse than others, but identifying that and being able to articulate and communicate yourself is much erratic with somebody, and then having to cover it up or make up the ground that you lost by hurting somebody else because of your emotions. So
Yeah. I think it's. I find it easier now to be. I mean, what's good as well, because there's been behaviours of mine in the past where, and I've not behaved great, but I've been able to stand up and own it and go, do you know what? Yes, that was yeah, that was all me. That was all my fault. There was stuff I hadn't dealt with. I've dealt with it now, and I'm not that person anymore. And I've been really lucky to have been able to apologise to the people, and they've said stuff to me. They go, do you know what, Rich? Listen, we're all going through stuff. I was going through stuff as well, so I probably overreacted to some of the things. So we're both as guilty as each other. So the conversation starts, and that's it. It's communication, isn't it? Like you said, it's you're better off having the awkward conversation, the clunky conversation, rather than having no conversation at all.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say 99% of the world's problems are down to miscommunication.
Yeah.
And it leads to so much. It leads to so many divorces, leads to so many arguments. It's just miscommunication and being like not being able to articulate how you feel or how somebody's made you feel. So it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you always been? Has this been a new thing for you as well? Have you always been pretty all right at, communication?
We're all in it together. I think honestly, like I struggle to talk to people about like if I'm feeling down. Like I really do. Like it's with my partner or with my mates or my parents or whatever. I do really struggle to say if I'm feeling down or what's made me feeling down. And I suppose you just got to find a balance between communicating when you're feeling low, but not dwelling on things too much and moving on from things, putting things behind you and doing the things that are going to make you feel better. We're open to so much insightful information about our body, our brain, how things work, and we know the right things to do a lot of the time. So it's just, but there are barriers in front of those things. So it's just about breaking down those and doing the things that are going to make you feel better. And yeah, like I say, just finding that balance.
Yeah, absolutely. It's it's one of them. Yeah, it's like yesterday. I had a moment. Everything was just piling up a little bit, and I just got up in the morning, and then I got another message from someone saying, "Oh, don't forget, we need to do blah blah blah." And I was like, "Fuck me!" And I went off into the kitchen, and my wife came through. She went, "You're all right." I went, I'm tired of fucking up." And we had this conversation, and she did, because we're in the middle of we've had to move out of our flat because for whatever reason, and so that's going on. And the thing is with the flat, like you're in the flat you're in. And you have to make sure the rent's all paid. But if you need to move, you've got to try and find the money to do that. And then there was a moment we were a bit fucked in the middle of it all. And then I was like, this is how homelessness starts. This is how you become homeless. Because you can't afford this one, but you can't get to that one. And I had this moment going, why is it so fucking hard? But we had the conversation, and then it was all worked out, and we figured it out. And it was all fine. But a few years ago, I would have done that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many things to pay for. There's so many things to think about as an adult, and I just think it's really important how we frame things in our own mind. So, for example, recently my car basically was finished, like had its day. It was a Corsa that's done 130,000 miles. So
wow,
it's done all right to get to that point. But yeah, it was basically done, and part of my job requires driving, so it stitched me up a little bit for a week or two, and obviously having to find a car pretty much immediately. Like part of me was feeling real annoyed, stressed, but then I had to stop myself and think, well, actually, I'm about to get a new car. I get to drive. I get to have a car. I get to go to work. I get to have a flat to live in. I get to have all of these things. It's so important that we, realize the things that we do have, and it's so easy for these like byproducts of all these things that we're lucky to have, and we should be grateful to have, that cause stress, and then it's easy for that stress to blur that gratitude. So it's just about, you know, reframing things to you know, in our own head is like so important.
Oh, definitely. It's one of those things that if you see things in a negative way, then yeah, you've got to remind yourself of what you do have, as you said,
Yeah,
and I do
yeah,
do that as well. I'm like, I get to travel around the country, making people laugh. I do a
yeah,
podcast that I get to
yeah,
speak to interesting people and
yeah.
expand my horizons and my
Mm.
my it gives me food for thought. And I go, yeah, actually, I'm not bad, and it's not things aren't that bad.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's
Can
outside
be,
pressures, and it's always to do with money. But other than that,
yeah,
everything's pretty cool. You know.
yeah, yeah. And but it's hard, you know.
Yeah.
Like all of these things are practices, and nobody's an expert at any of these things. You know, they're all difficult, but as long as we know the right way to go and the things that benefit us as individuals and together collectively, you know, that's the important bit. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I think that's it. Communication, connection is so important. So anyone
mm,
listening to this, I say this all the time. I'm going to keep saying it until people listen. It's important that when you make these plans, you go and stick to them. Go and meet that person for a coffee,
mm,
or a
mm,
walk. Go for a walk around the park, or go and talk to someone. And you don't necessarily have to talk about how you're feeling, but just talking to someone about
mm,
anything.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
just rather than locking yourself away and just scrolling through your phone,
Mm.
which is what we all do.
Yeah,
You know.
it can send you down. It can send you down a real hole sometimes. You go on social media and you know you just hit with like all of the world's problems, and then but then you actually go out in your own personal environment and none of them are going on. So it's like
Yeah.
it's easy to get sucked into all of that, and obviously being aware of different things is crucial, but not. Yeah, it's just like that's the thing with the chess. It's like
Mm.
the chess board takes off so much pressure on the conversation. So I think, especially with us guys, I think we like to have a purpose. We like to be doing something. You know,
Yes.
when you're just sitting opposite somebody in a coffee shop or opposite a therapist, it can seem like a bit of a duality. It can seem a bit intimidating, but actually, with a chessboard in the middle, it really does take that pressure off the
Yeah.
conversation. Because if there's a you know a few seconds of silence, like in a different social situation, that might you might naturally feel quite awkward. But when there's a chessboard to revert back to, it's fine. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you're playing a game of chess. So it's like all the pressure's taken off trying to hold this conversation and even trying to sound interesting and all of this. So that's you know a part of why we believe chess is a great tool for people.
Yeah. Absolutely. There's places like men's sheds, and we had Chris on from them, and
I was there this morning.
it's great. It's
Yeah,
great, and it's one
yeah,
of those things that, like you've just said, men need to be doing something else
yeah,
in order for them to talk or have a
yeah,
chat, like fixing a lawnmower or
yeah.
building something. And it's
And
yeah.
they've hit the nail on the head over there. That's the exact type of thing that they're doing. And it's just important to be doing something. I think for guys it's even more important. I think that's when a guy might start to feel comfortable to talk. Like if you're just
Mm,
sitting opposite one another in front of a therapist or in front of a coffee shop, it makes it more difficult for a guy to open up or to talk. It's like
yeah.
you want to provide that sense of purpose, you know.
Yeah, definitely. There's a guy. It was one of our first interviews on here. Was with the actor Michael Smiley, and I remember years ago because I've known Michael since I started doing comedy, and I remember him one day saying like, I was having some trouble with my lad, and he just went, "Do you know what? Just go out and throw a ball with him, and then
Mm,
just have the conversation that way. He might open up. Then I'll go and get a bag of chips and go and sit and look at the
mm,
ducks. And if
mm,
you're sat side by side, or if you're just doing something." He goes,
yeah,
chances are the conversation will flow and
yeah,
he'll come out of
yeah,
himself. It's so
yeah,
important to do
yeah.
to recognize that.
Yeah, and it is, you know, it's the simple things like that can make a massive difference. You know, it can just be a conversation, it can just be an activity. You know, that's why I feel like a sense of belonging to something so important, for guys and women, whether it be
Yeah.
a cycling club or bingo or whatever it is, it's like it's a sense of belonging. And if you're not
Yeah.
there, people will be asking where you are. And just little things like that, I think,
Yeah.
make such a difference. And like the comedy night that we have here at the cafe, that's
Yeah.
the comedy is ultimately the medicine, that's the tool, right? So if a guy comes, at the very minimum, if he leaves the door in a better mood than the one in
Yeah.
which he walked in with, that's great, that's brilliant. But then after maybe week 2, week 3, week 4, he might feel a sense of belonging to something. He might have those connections with other guys at the comedy night, and
Yeah.
then he might feel comfortable to open up. I'm just against this this constant message being purported of just talk to someone, just talk,
Yeah.
because it's true, it is true, definitely. And but I just think with guys specifically, it'll work for like 10% of guys, but for the rest, they just won't. You have to give them something. You have to provide something so that they feel comfortable enough to do so. Because asking somebody to go to the service all the time, they're the hard yards there. Like
Yeah.
when you're in a hole, like that feels like a massive step to pick up the phone, dial this number, talk to somebody, and then have to wait however many weeks to talk to another person. It's a massive step that we're asking
Yeah.
of people. But if, like I say, if we just have people dotted all along the line, it helps so much. We all have mental health, whether it's good or bad. It's just
Yeah.
it's on a spectrum, right? And it moves every single day. So we all need things to make to help our own health of our brain.
Yeah. 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 I think it's right, and like you say, it's that just saying go and talk to someone. It just doesn't work like that.
No,
This is why we do this podcast the way we do it. It's supposed to be like just a couple of people just sat in a pub having a chat, and it
yeah,
goes all over the place. And sometimes we talk about mental health, sometimes we just talk about other stuff. It just goes off on
yeah,
one, but the whole point is about conversation.
yeah,
You know?
yeah, and just not always asking the person to accept defeat to receive any kind of service. Like I say, I think we all require some service, and that can be from one another. That
Yeah.
doesn't have to be from the NHS or from organisations. We can pick each other up. Like it's like if there's a building that says alcoholics come inside for help, it's like you're asking them to accept defeat first, and then it's like if they then go into that building, they might be then worried about the other people walking down the street, looking in the window,
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, look, he must be an alcoholic because he's getting help." And it's like this whole dynamic. I don't think it's as efficient as it can be. We've got to try and come from it at different angles.
Yeah. 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 Definitely. It's yes. It's trying to, because I find it. Because again, I've had conversations with people when I've said to them like, "You all right?" and they've gone, "Yeah," and I go, "I don't think you are. Are you sure you're all
Mm,
right? You don't seem yourself." And they're like, "No, I'm fine. I don't want to talk
mm,
about it. I'm good." And then you can't. You got to let them come to that decision. You can't force it out of
no,
them. Do you know what I
no,
mean?
no, and
And
they have to be ready. Like
yeah,
you can't force somebody. You can't beg somebody. You can't shame somebody. They have to be in the place that they need to be to do whatever, to ask for help, to talk, anything. So
yeah,
we can't be forcing it, like you say, forcing it out of people. We just have to be trying to pick one another up, and then whenever they're ready, so, they- everyone's ready for them.
yeah. I get it wrong sometimes where I've it just feels uncomfortable where I've opened up too much too quickly. Where
Mm.
they like again they go, "You're right," and I go, "Well, blah 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 blah," and all of a sudden they're like, "Yeah, all right, mate. Well, good to see you," and
Yeah,
then
yeah, yeah.
and they go off, and I'm like, "Ah, shit, yeah, I should
Horrible
have."
feeling. Yeah, horrible feeling. You feel exposed, don't you?
Mm,
And it's like because of how slow some services can be. It's like some
yeah,
people call up basically explain all of their problems and then don't speak to anyone else for like they must feel so exposed, like they've just given all of their information away and then they're just sitting there like dwelling on it for
Yeah.
ages afterwards, and it's just too slow. And like, of course, in some cases it quite horrible, but it is too late.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's it. But it takes that extreme. It's always an extreme that then people go, all right, okay, we need to address this. It always needs someone
Yeah.
to top themselves or do something silly.
Yeah.
For anyone to go, oh, actually, we'll address this now, and you go, no, you should have addressed this 6 months ago when that bloke spoke to you in the first place.
Yeah, and this is why I think prevention is so important, because the cure is such a difficult process. You know, a lot of the damage has already been done. It could be things that have scarred somebody, that could be for life. It could be trauma that is going to take a long time to recover from. So I just think if we put as much emphasis as we can on preventing these things happening, like that's where you're going to see an actual, you know, genuine results. But like I say, you don't get heroic storylines on prevention. You don't see it. So if somebody came into the cafe here, had a great chat, and then afterwards they said, do you know what, like I was thinking about doing it this morning, and that, but I came in, I had a great chat with you guys, and do you know what, I've realized so many things and I feel so much better. You can't quantify that. You can't even prove that. You can't show that on a Excel sheet, you know. It's like so you know, I think naturally, like, I don't know, not naturally, but I think sometimes we want to be the one to do it. You know, we want to be the one that saved somebody.
Yeah.
And it's like for every one person that was maybe on one extreme and we managed to pull them from that extreme and now they're okay, like 999 other people are probably, you know, lost to it. And it's like, it's just not like we can do it so much better than that.
Absolutely. I mean, I know when I was at that point, and I ran, and weirdly I found this number, so I called them up and just said, look, I'm worried. I think I'm going to actually do it, and the guy I ended up talking to was so brilliant, and it just so obviously I didn't really want to do it. I think I just needed to talk to someone, you know. I needed someone to tell me if it was all right, it was going to be fine. But like I say, it takes that extreme. This is why your club and the men's sheds and other things are so important, because it just needs that one person to go, oh, I'm glad I came tonight.
Yeah,
you know, it's that. It's like,
just leaving them in the dark and then oh, it's happened. Oh, we better do something now. It's like.
Yeah, but just the other stuff, you know, it's lovely what you've got, but there's so little. People don't get invested in, do they? They're not. There's no money for this. There's no funding for these things. You have to set it up yourself, do it yourself. Yeah. And so,
well, I think,
you know, go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think empathy and perspectives quite minimal in this world, really, and I think there could be so much more of it, and I think unfortunately it takes it to happen to you or to somebody you know for you to care about it.
Yeah.
And actually, if we had that empathy and perspective from other people and actually realize that could easily have been you, but you're lucky that it's not, all of a sudden it then happens to you, and then you want everyone else to care about, you know. But it's like, if we just had a bit more empathy and a bit more perspective of one another's position and how people might be feeling about, you know, there's plenty of things that can go wrong. So it's like, you know, we need to care, like, until before it just happens to you and you have that personal emotion involved in it. Like, we need to see from other people's perspective.
Yeah. But this is the thing. This the way society is at the minute. You know, it's businessmen that rule the world, and they only see you as a benefit to them if you're helping them become billionaires. Other than that, if you're not in the system making money or, you know, producing then you're superfluous and there's no point to you, so we don't give a shit. Which is why they don't invest in people that don't think that way. There are people that just, they're not that way inclined. They don't want to be in business. They want to do other things. They want to paint. They want to be dancers. They don't want to be something else, But
It's
there's
greed.
no investment in that.
It's greed. Like greed seems to be a strong drug, and it's just like the more money you get, the more it seems to be you're desperate to get that bigger paycheck, and it's like, like you say, we're all so unique. Like, and I think that's the beauty of us as humans. Like, we're all so different. We're all so good at different things. Like, I genuinely believe like we're all born to do something great. Like, and we all have different skill sets. And let me tell you, like, if you've overcome addiction or you've fought through any type of mental health, or you have social difficulty, and like you're still here today, you have something. Like, you have something. You have fight for one, and that's a lot. You have determination and grit, like, and that can take you so many different places. So everyone has something that they can provide, and it's ultimately about finding your identity and who you are, so that you can then channel that into becoming the best person that you can, and not looking sideways elsewhere what someone else is doing. And that's what social media creates, unfortunately. But realizing what you're good at, what you enjoy, and then what you're passionate about, and using your unique skill set, that's the way to go.
Yeah, definitely. And it's and sometimes you need someone to say what you've just said. Like, when people have overcome things, and you go, you've obviously got that in you, that you've obviously got that drive and that push. I did a thing, I mentioned this on an episode a little while ago, but I did a thing the other day for some people, the young people that were homeless, and then they've been taken in and they're being taken care of, and they're getting back out into society, and they're building their confidence up. And they've been doing it through comedy, and I sat with them, and I got them to tell me some stories, and out of the stories we picked out ones that we could make into a couple of minutes, like a comedy, like a bit. And there was a couple of them, you go like, well, you've obviously got that in you, because you're not, they were a lot of them were from other countries as well for a start, and you go, you speak more than one language. You are in a different country from the one that you grew up in. That just tells me all about you. You've got a drive. You've got a need to keep pushing on.
And you clearly are intelligent. I'd love to. It's kind of a bucket. One of something on my bucket list is like, I'd love to learn another language. But it's difficult, and that does, like you say, it shows a lot. It shows you are intelligent. You can do things, but like I say, it's like people need to realize for themselves, and like you can tell somebody, and that can help, that can be a stepping stone in order for them to realize. But people must see things for themselves to really believe it, and then really act on it.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes back to what you said about chess. When you're at the beginning, if you've never played chess before, it can be daunting and horrifying, and I'm not clever enough for this. But as you get into it, and you all of a sudden you're 6 months down the line and you're kicking ass at it, it's like learning a language. I'm terrified of that. I'd love to learn another language, but it terrifies me, so I don't.
And you see this same dynamic, we were talking about at the start with fear. What's on the other side of fear? You'll be a multi-language speaker. How unreal would that be? Like, next
Imagine.
time, Rich Wilson's podcast in 2 years' time, Italian version or something.
It would be. Can you imagine? I wouldn't.
You've got a bit of Italian with that beard, to be fair, mate.
Thanks, man. It's got Someone said that before. Do you know what? It's funny. I watched Mamma Mia 2, and I didn't want to, but what's his name? Andy Garcia's in it, and he turns up, and he was dressed like this. I'm like, for fuck's sake! I just this old twat. Oh God. But it is, it's fear. I think it's recognizing that you are scared of it, but not letting that fear be debilitating.
No, use it as fuel. You know?
Use it as
And that
fuel.
just
Yeah.
that shows you that you're about to grow. Like, because if it wasn't scary, it'd be something you're familiar with. Therefore,
Yeah.
you've already done it. So it's like, if we can see it that way, you'll realize, okay, well, it's, you know, it's a good thing. But it's just, it's hard because, like, naturally, I think we try and find comfort, you know, and it's like, because of maybe our survival instincts, we like just look for the next spot of comfort. But actually, you
Yeah.
know, it doesn't need to be like that now. You know, we're not at risk of being, you know, eaten by a lion if we turn the next corner. You know, so it's like we
Yeah.
can push through those fear barriers to just ultimately become better.
Yeah. No, you're right. Absolutely right. I mean, yeah, you've still. This is the thing with anxiety. Everyone's got it. You have to have it, an element of it, because it keeps you alive. It's your
Mm.
warning system, isn't it?
Mm.
But you shouldn't don't let it dominate. And don't let it,
Yeah.
like you say, now we've got excess of it because we don't need it as much, I guess.
Yeah.
Like you just said, and it's not letting it, don't let it nail you to the bed. You've
Mm.
just got to go, yeah, that's gonna be fucking horrible. This is
Mm.
why I used to drink. I used to drink at social gatherings,
Mm.
not at home, but when I'm out, I'd have a couple of pints
Yeah.
because it just makes me feel better.
Yeah, exactly. It sort of like
Yeah,
makes you feel more comfortable, doesn't it? But
yeah,
you know, it's like what I was saying earlier. Like, it's like if you let your fear control you, I just can imagine it'd be such a horrible feeling when you get to 70 and you look back and you realize that nobody really cared what you were doing, and
exactly.
nobody really cared. Like, and you'd be like, why did I let those people make me feel like I couldn't do it? Or why did I let those people fill me with fear? You know, and I just look back now and I could have done so much more. I think that's a worse feeling. I'm really, well, ironic, but I'm fearful of that.
It's true. Yeah, you're absolutely right. All those wasted opportunities just because you were too, you let it get to you. Let it
Yeah,
become too much. Or you
yeah,
assumed everybody
yeah,
would judge you, and that is definitely a thing now. I don't have, not so much. I'm 51, so now
mm,
I get. What I get more is people going, "Oh, I hope I'm like you when I'm your age. When I want to be, you seem you've got your head around things, and you go, yeah, I just don't. I'm not really worried about what people think about me anymore. I
yeah,
worry when I've upset people, I'll let them down, but
mm,
I don't. I don't wake up at night going, "Oh God, that thing that I said in 1984. Oh
yeah,
my God!"
yeah,
Like those people aren't even
yeah.
around. They don't even remember that you
Literally,
met each other.
that's the thing I was about to say. Like, and those same people that you let, um, you know, you allowed them to stop you doing something or stopped you growing, developing yourself. You probably haven't seen those people for like 30 years, 40 years by the time you're 70. Like, and it just sounds so ridiculous, but this can easily happen.
Yeah, you just got to let all that shit go.
Yeah.
All that. I mean, I know my wife's got this great bit that she's working on at the minute, and she talks about that thing that wakes you up in the night, that wakes you up so hard it makes your arsehole wink. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
but
Them ones.
we all have that. But you've just got to recognise, like, the amount of people that don't even remember, they don't even remember meeting you.
No,
It's
no.
just a
Yeah, and it's
thing.
like this imposter syndrome as well. But I just like everyone has it. Like everyone has it. Like even the people that at the top and you
Yeah,
look like they don't get nervous. Like they've gone through all of these steps. They're just another human being. It's quite easy for us to like detach ourselves from like famous people or people that have, really succeeded objectively. But it's like they're only there because they broke down all of those barriers and they didn't care and they went through it and they worked
yeah,
hard and they didn't care what people thought about them. They're not just like some alien that's completely different to you. They've just gone on a similar journey and went through those same stages.
yeah. Exactly. And it brings us back to fear again. That's
Mm.
where imposter syndrome comes from. It's that fear that because you're not quite comfortable with what you're doing yet. You've only been
Yeah.
doing it a little while, and
Yeah.
again with comedy, everybody goes through it. For years, you have that. For years, you're like. But then someone told me at a gig, Simon Mason at the Comedy Store, and he turned around and he went, "We're not booking you as a favour. We're booking you because you're good at it. We're booking you
Yeah.
because you're a benefit to the club. So stop fucking
Yeah.
about and get on with it."
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and that's the same with what you do. It's the same with with chess. Like you didn't pick it up straight away. You were a bit like, oh, I don't know, but
No.
or and then
No.
or, like you say, going into prisons. That was you
Yeah.
were probably shit scared of that the first time you did that.
Yeah. And you go in, and yeah, it was a real experience. I don't know how to quite articulate it, but it was a experience in which I'm grateful to have had. But you go in and you realize that they are just normal people. Like I
Yeah.
think there's some sort of stigma that makes you think that these guys are animals, and they're really not normal people, but they've made a mistake. And you can see it in their eyes that they regret it. And ultimately, chess requires you to think ahead, and they obviously didn't think ahead. They didn't think 3-4 moves ahead.
No.
So they're the type of skills in which chess can really benefit people that have unfortunately gone down that path. You know,
Yeah.
I had this one encounter, and it was like golden story. My partner was April was playing with a guy on the wing, and April put him in check, but it meant that he could take her queen, but he didn't see it, and he was getting like increasingly annoyed. You could see it. He was getting like real frustrated, and he was just like, "Nah, right." I said, "I've lost." Then I just give up, and we just encouraged him to just keep looking, just keep looking, you know, see what you find. And then a few minutes later, he finally saw it, and he was like, took April's queen, and he was like, "This is it. This is why I'm in here. My patience."
Yeah.
Usually I would have thrown the board across the table, stormed out, maybe started a fight. This is why I'm in here. My impatience, and it's just things like that,
Wow,
which
man.
you have to see for yourself, you know, because that's when things really stick, you know.
Yeah.
Like people go, you know, and it's like people can go into prisons and tell them what they need to do and tell them where they've gone wrong, and it's unfortunately in one ear out the other a lot of the time. But it's like people more often than not know the right way to be. People just sometimes have to realize things for themselves, you know, when they're ready, and chess just allows people to do that.
Yeah. And I think again, like another example of doing something else that kind of distracts you for a bit, but then helps you realise a few things. So that guy just getting into the game, and then it all unfolding, like going, "Oh shit, yeah, that's why I'm in here anyway, because of that." It's such a beautiful thing,
Yeah.
and it's nice when it happens. The realisation is like the day that I took responsibility for any bullshit behaviour that I'd done. I suddenly felt this. I felt elevated.
Yeah.
I suddenly felt I wasn't looking to blame anyone else anymore. I wasn't feeling like a victim. Oh, I'm this way because of this. It was like, nah, this is all me. I'm just being a prick, and I need to not be a prick anymore. And I remember that day, I just felt elated. It was incredible.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's just allowing people to see that. It's just giving them the platform to see that, because that's all we can really do. Like, you can't force somebody to see things. You can't just overload them with information all the time.
No.
It's just going to become blurred, and it's not really going to help, you know. But just like in terms of just picking each other up, you know, relating to the prisons, we have a wingman program, which is delivered in many prisons across the UK, but it's delivered by an actual inmate. And the reason for that is, I think for information being passed on, I think how effective that is dependent on the gap between the customer, if you like, whoever's receiving the information, and the figurehead.
Yeah.
So if somebody you know, to put it politely, somebody of no relatability to a prisoner comes in and tries to preach to them, it's just not like, it's not going to work, because the people in prison are just going to be like, you don't understand, you're nothing like me, I don't relate to you. So an actual inmate delivering that common language, that relatability, they respect him, that's where you're going to see an actual change. And actually, it it links to sort of kind of a backstory to why five-a-side chess sort of started, was because of you previously mentioned John Healy.
Yeah.
John Healy was an Irish immigrant that moved to London in the 50s. And without going into too much information, he had a very difficult upbringing, one in which any of us would find difficult. And he was an alcoholic by the time he was 15. He was in and out of prison 100 times between 1957 and 1972. And we like to ask people, in those 15 years in and out of prison 100 times, how much help do you think he got from church and state?
Yeah.
How much do you think?
Barely anything, or anything at all.
You wouldn't be mistaken. That's what I thought at first. He got loads. He got loads of help. Yeah, he got loads of help. But I think we like to think we're the first generation to get it. We like to think that we're the first generation that cares. He got loads of help from all sorts of intelligent people, but what it took was a fellow prisoner. He saw him down the wing, causing trouble.
Yeah.
He just put his arm around him and just said, again, to put it politely, why don't you wisen up? You're smarter than this.
Yeah.
Why don't you learn how the game's played? And he taught him chess. John Healy then became addicted to chess. So his addiction from alcohol then passed on to chess. Now, of course, an addiction to winning isn't healthy, but an addiction to chess, in
the grand scheme of things,
I'd say that's better than being an alcoholic.
Yeah, definitely.
So, he then became addicted to chess. He became so good. He could play 7 people at once blindfolded. Like, he became so good because he became addicted to it, and he hasn't touched a drop of alcohol since that day.
Wow.
And I just think that's just so important, and it just says a lot. It doesn't take so much money. It doesn't take all these things that we get mistaken by. It took a fellow insider to put his arm around him and just say, why don't you wisen up? And it, even from an addiction standpoint, that should say so much. And it's just very, very interesting backstory.
Well, when I read, because I saw the documentary on him first, I'd never heard of him. I didn't know anything about it. And I remember watching it, and I'm like, who is this fucking dude? Talking about this, one of the greatest books he's ever written. So I'm like, so what's that? And then I read the book, and that's when the book just blew my head off. I
think it won 10 awards, and there's a documentary on Netflix about him now.
That's it. And, that's the one I saw. Yeah.
Look at that. Like, that's just unreal. Like, what a turnaround, and it didn't take any prescriptions. It didn't take loads of money, and I think that's quite profound.
Yeah, and it genuinely blew my head off, that book, and it really made me realise the fact that he describes what it's like to be homeless, and what the ecosystem that surrounds it, and it's just angry and violent all the time. And I just was like, fucking hell. I mean, I've met people that have been homeless before, but I didn't really understand it. But that book clarified so much for me. And that was why it was nice when April got in touch, and now I know about you guys. And I think what you're doing is so worthwhile and brilliant. You should absolutely keep doing it. When are the clubs? Are they every night, or are they every month, or?
So we have, they're mainly on Thursdays. So the Mentel Jokes night, the comedy night, is on the last Thursday of the month. And then we also have philosophy discussions, and we have an art exhibition on Saturdays alongside storytelling for kids, which April runs on a Saturday morning as well.
Brilliant.
So yeah, we've got a lot going on. But even if it's as simple as just come in for a chat, that's the main thing.
Yeah.
Even if it's just that, that's fine. We're just a cafe.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's so important. Yes, you say it's just a cafe, but you're creating connections, mate, and that is so important. And I'm really glad that from reading that book, I ended up meeting you guys, and I just hope we can do some stuff going forward. I know we had one booked in and I fucked that up, but we'll put it back in. And
Yeah,
I'd love to
definitely.
come down and we'll do we'll do a proper Men Tell Jokes. I'd love to be part of that. That'd be great. So
Yeah,
where can we find you
absolutely.
on the socials?
Instagram, Play Five-A-Side Chess, or we have a cafe account, which is the Chess and Life Cafe. You can find us on Facebook as well. So yeah, make sure, because yeah, we're trying to do as much as we can, and yeah, any support is very much appreciated.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Sam, for your time as well. Really appreciate it. Honestly, it's been great chatting to you, mate.
No, I really appreciate you having me on. So
No, man,
thank you.
it's been first class, man. Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
definitely.
Nice one. This has been Insane in the Membrane. I've been Rich Wilson, and we'll see you next time.